I'm an absolute beginner when it comes to Metroidvania games, so naturally I thought, why not try to speedrun one of the hardest and most beloved titles in the genre, Hollow Knight. But here's the problem. As of this recording, I have a whopping 46 minutes of playtime, and most of that was just adjusting settings. So I gave myself 50 hours to learn everything I could before attempting my speedrun, and the results were crazy. Being completely honest, as I jumped in for the first time, I was out of my element. The closest thing I've played to Hollow Knight was the new Super Mario Bros. U on the Wii U when I was like 10. Additionally, getting used to controller was another struggle. I play mostly shooters on PC with keyboard and mouse, so switching to precise platforming using joysticks felt like learning how to walk again. In terms of combat, my early game strategy was to spam my sword and hope the enemy died first. Combining the two was like watching a house fire. It's so bad, but you can't take your eyes off of it.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man.
I may have bitten off a little more than I could chew with this challenge. When it came to the bosses of Hollow Knight, I learned that they fall into two main categories. Fast bosses, which have lots of movement, and the boss is the main thing to dodge. Think of Hornet and Mantis Lords. And slow bosses, which have slower moves, but are mostly heavy hitting or projectile spam, like False Knight or Brooding Malwek. I found out early on that I struggled way more with fast bosses as they required more precise movement and patience, but I also found them way more fun due to the difficulty. Come on, man. Oh, did I get him? I got him. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Only took me 50 tries, but I got him. By around hour 10, I had a realization. There was going to be a lot of backtracking. Like a ton. Nearly every path I came across was locked behind some ability I didn't have yet. Also, my memory is pretty garbage, so I heavily relied on map markers to make notes of these locations, and had the compass charm equipped at all times so I knew where I was going. Now imagine how I felt falling into Deep Nest. If you've played Hollow Knight before, you'll know my pain. I was hopelessly lost. Eventually, after flailing about for a while, I somehow wandered into the beast's den and took out a dreamer. I didn't even realize that was my actual objective. Up until that point, I was just aimlessly exploring a dying kingdom. Turns out, there was a real mission after all. Now, despite all the confusion, I was having a great time. Hollow Knight's atmosphere was so immersive that just running around and discovering new places was fun, even if I had no idea where I was going. And by the end of the 15 hours, something had changed. I wasn't flailing through my fights anymore. I was upgrading my abilities, I was checking off map locations and hunting down grubs. I had a solid grasp of the controls, and I was hooked. Sure, I still died to spikes and missed jumps I had no business missing, but I was learning, I was improving, and for the first time, I felt like I could actually do this challenge. This is when the game really started ramping up. Up until now, most of my deaths were because I fell on spikes or got lost. Or parkour. I hate parkour. But suddenly, enemies had more health, more aggressive patterns, and I had to start using actual brain cells in fights. Mobility quickly became everything. I wasn't just swinging randomly anymore. I had to fight smart. I had to dash strategically and make the most out of every opening. That shift hit hard once I got the Mantis Claw and Desolate Dive. Suddenly, the map exploded in size. All those markers I'd placed early on, now I could finally go back and check them off one by one. And honestly, exploring Hollow Nest started to feel like exploring a completely new world with every hour. The diversity in locations kept things fresh. Eerie depths, crumbling cities, fungal jungles, but my favorite by far, the Hive. Everything else in this game is pretty dark, creepy, or just downright depressing, but the Hive, it's bright, full of charm, and bees of all shapes and sizes. Small ones, big ones, some that grow spikes, and berry?
You like jazz?
But don't let the cuteness distract you. After a while, getting around Hollow Nest started to become a major pain. The map is massive, and without clear guidance, I spent hours just wandering. Like this one time in Fog Canyon, Cornifer, the map guy, was blocked behind a shade gate, and I didn't yet have the ability to pass through. So, no map, and no clue where to go. This was especially evident once I discovered the nailsmith. You see, on my first trip to the City of Tears, I completely missed him. I had all the upgrade materials necessary, but because I was so laser focused on chasing my second dreamer, I just walked right past him. The only reason I even reached the dreamer was thanks to a speedrun strat I didn't even know I was doing. I parried off a vase to reach a high ledge. Looking back at it now, it's weird how good I can be for someone so empty-headed. Eventually, I upgraded my nail. Twice. And wow, what a difference that made. Suddenly, enemies that were giving me trouble were going down in fewer hits. A complete game changer. One thing I love about Hollow Knight is that instead of limiting progress by having to grind XP and gain levels like most games, your progression is locked behind movement upgrades. And once I understood that, I started paying attention to more areas I couldn't reach before. This accelerated my progression. Mantis Claw gave me wall jump, which allowed me to fully explore Crystal Peak, where I found the Crystal Heart. I used that to dash across a spike cavern in Ancient Basin, leading to the Monarch Wings, which let me double jump onto this ledge in Kingdom's Edge, where I got the King's Brand, which allowed me to open the gate to the Abyss, where I finally found the Shade Cloak, letting me pass through Shade Gates. So, with all that unlocked, I basically had free reign over all of Hallownest, and with that freedom, I made my way to the final Dreamer. Remember Cornifer hiding behind that shade gate from before? Yeah, now I could finally get a map and progress once more. The map pointed me to the teacher's archives, and eventually Umu. This boss is actually pretty cool. It's one of the only times that we get a companion that helps us fight. Umu is normally invulnerable unless Coral jumps in to help. This mechanic forced me to change strategies. It emphasized patience, which I tend to ignore when playing video games. It was a nice change of pace, and honestly was satisfying to finally beat him. Now, with Umu down, and the final Dreamer vanquished, it was time to head to the Temple of the Black Egg. The final seal was broken. I had been wandering Hallownest for nearly 30 hours, and now was finally coming to a close. So, I sat at a bench one last time, adjusted my charms, and noticed I'd only completed 74% of the game. It seems even through my extensive exploration of Hallownest, there were still secrets to discover. But no turning back now. Stepping through the light, I came face to face with the Hollow Knight, which up until this point I thought I was the Hollow Knight. I can't be the only one who thought this, right? Anyways, the Hollow Knight boss fight was rough. Fast attacks, hard to dodge projectiles, and he gets tougher as the fight progresses. I died a few times, but once I swapped in the Sharp Shadow, it clicked. I dashed through him, counterattack, repeat that cycle, and after a few more tries, finally, victory. I had beat the Hollow Knight. The game was beaten in just under 30 hours. But I was just getting started. So, I had beat the game in just under 30 hours. Most people would wrap it up there and move on. But not me. I had bigger plans. The next 20 hours were dedicated to one singular goal: speedrunning Hollow Knight. And I didn't want just a sloppy run. I wanted to do it right. So I did what anyone would. I watched speedrun tutorials and speedrun attempts on YouTube, obviously, from Easy Speedy Speedrun to Master's Tutorial. I took notes, mapped out routes, jotted down movement tech, boss strats, everything. But that's when I realized something crucial. Turns out, the official speedruns are done on patch 1.2.2.1, and I was playing on the newest version, which meant a bunch of the speedrun tricks simply just didn't work anymore. Could I have downpatched? Yeah. Did I? Nah, I'm too lazy to do that, and I was doing this for fun, so I figured I'll just adapt, I guess. Now, during my playthrough, I unlocked Godhome, which allows access to previously beaten bosses, which really came in handy. It quickly became a staple during my practice. That, along with running the route I was going to take. I used it to sharpen my reaction time, refine my movement, and learn boss patterns. My favorite bosses to fight over and over were easily Mantis Lords, Hornet, and Watcher Knights, in that order. And not gonna lie, training this way actually made me feel like I was getting good. It wasn't just about finishing the fights. I was getting more consistent, making quick decisions, and making less mistakes. Then, before I knew it, I had hit hour 50. Was I fully prepared? No, but I was gonna try anyways. This was it. All the planning, the tutorials, the boss fights in God Home, everything. It was time to see how fast I could beat Hollow Knight. I started off pretty strong, hitting most of my jumps and breezing through the tutorial and Dirtmouth like I've done it a couple hundred times before. There were a few bumps in Forgotten Crossroads and while grabbing the Vengeful Spirit, but I was still making solid time. Now, Green Path is where things started to diverge from your typical speedrun. See, in the current patch, you can't one-shot the enemy guarding the entrance using the Vengeful Spirit and some movement tech like you could before. So I had to stop and recharge my soul to full so I could efficiently take him out, costing me a small chunk of time. Further in, I decided to use the Squit, yes, that's its actual name, I checked the wiki, to launch myself towards Hornet. I usually find this more consistent than the Fireball skip, except I still goofed up and lost more time anyways. Then I decided to take the Winding Path upward, again to avoid the Fireball skip. That was another 10 to 15 seconds down the drain. That said, I did manage to kill both mini-bosses pretty quickly, which is a rarity for me, so I'll take that as a win. And then, Hornet. Turns out, all that time in God Home wasn't for nothing. I absolutely shredded her, took her down in under a minute, and finally unlocked the dash. After exiting the game and reloading to arrive back at the Ancestral Mound, I dropped down to the Fungal Wastes. Nothing crazy happened here, except I took the long way to Mantis Village, because even after 20 hours of practice, I still cannot do the bomb pogo skip. I'll chalk that up to the new patch, not because I'm bad or anything. After grabbing the Mantis Claw, I used the good old exit and reload strategy again to get back to the Ancestral Mound. Now with both the dash and wall jump, I could finally head to my first Dreamer. But there was one very important thing I had to do first. Open the Stag Station. Why, you may ask? Because in one of my earlier practice runs, I forgot to. And when Forgotten Crossroads became the Infected Crossroads, I got completely soft-locked out of the bottom half of the area. So yeah, open the Stag Station. After getting past Grub's mother, I made my way to the Charm Shop to pick up the Shaman Stone. Then I woke up Sly to be scammed out of 1800 Geo later. To progress, I needed to do a shade skip up to Blue Lake. This skip requires tight timing. I actually used the background of the shop as a visual cue to try to pogo off the shade right here. Except it took me 3 tries. Not proud, but I got it eventually. Then, it was off to the resting grounds to awaken the Dreamers. The parkour here was really hard for me to do fast without falling. The amount of times I fell during my practice is downright embarrassing. Now equipped with the Dream Nail, I dashed off to the City of Tears, my first Dreamer finally in sight. After grabbing a Wanderer's Journal, a Hollowness Seal, and taking out the Golden Husk, I was finally ready for my second major boss fight. But first, I needed to pogo off the same vase I used during my first playthrough to reach this ledge. Talk about a callback. Then came the enemy gauntlet guarding the lever to unlock the path to the Watcher Knights. During my practice, I tried hitting the lever through the wall dozens of times. It never worked. So yeah, that was probably patched up. Now normally, during the fight, you have to go through 6 Watcher Knights, but if you cut the chandelier beforehand, only 5 spawn, which saves a massive amount of time. The fight, although stressful, actually went surprisingly well. I kept a level head, used a Vengeful Spirit to hit multiple knights at once, and managed to clear them in a little over 30 minutes. A huge improvement. After taking out my first Dreamer and selling my loot to Lem for some easy geo, I backtracked to Dirtmouth to finally buy the Lumafly Lantern. But it was there, in the now infected crossroads, where disaster struck. During my time practicing, I'd say I'd made a lot of improvements, yet one sticking point for me that persisted was my platforming. I was still prone to making beginner mistakes, but add pressure into the mix, and my brain kinda short circuits. Pressure in this case taking the form of infected vengeflies. They were on me.
Leave me alone!
So yeah, I died. My saving grace? I had just saved in Dirtmouth, so the run wasn't lost yet. Second attempt, I took no chances, killed all 3 vengeflies to clear a path, and made it safely into Crystal Peak. Thankfully, Crystal Peak was chill. Gave me time to breathe, recover, and re-lock in. A bit of platforming later, and I picked up the Crystal Heart, my final movement upgrade, unlocking access to the rest of the run. After another reload, I was back in Dirtmouth. I then traversed through infected crossroads once again, not dying this time, and prepped to do the acid skip into Fog Canyon. Naturally, it took me 3 tries to get it. First try, too high, straight into the acid. Second, I made it across, but missed the landing. Third try, clean. Weaving past the jellyfish, and taking a wrong turn, whoops, I finally reached the teacher's archives to fight Umu. This time, the fight was a breeze. With smart use of vengeful spirits during staggers, I melted through his HP like it was nothing. All I had to do was dodge, and in about 3.5 minutes, Umu was gone. With the second dreamer down, I sprinted through Fog Canyon and into Deep Nest. I still remember my first time in Deep Nest where I got hopelessly lost, but because this time I had a set route, I was able to get in and out fast. So, one short kidnapping session later, I made my way through the maze of the Beast's Den. Just a bunch of annoying enemies and my janky platform. Barely surviving, I reached the final dreamer, and with that, the final seal was broken. All that remained was the final boss. Being extra careful not to miss any jumps, I opened the last stag station and returned to Dirtmouth for the last time. I then headed straight to the Temple of the Black Egg. So, with adrenaline pumping, I confronted the Hollow Knight, ready to end this run with a bang. So, I readied up, raised my nail, and died. Twice.
Why you bully me?
Made my way to the finish line, only to fumble. I guess the pressure was messing with me because I died in the dumbest ways. I mean, I literally walked into one of his attacks. If I had gotten him in the first try, I might have been able to complete it in under an hour. But despite that, I pressed on and eventually took him out on the 3rd try. My final time? 1 hour and 5 minutes to speedrun all of Hollow Knight. Was it the best time? Absolutely not. But in the end, I was still 30 times faster than in my original playthrough, and honestly, that's an achievement in of itself. You know, as a wise man once said, it's the journey that matters, not the destination. And this journey, absolutely worth it. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, I really appreciate a like, a sub, and maybe drop a comment letting me know what game you want to see me tackle next. This video took way longer than I expected. Just the gameplay alone was over 50 hours, not to mention the planning, scripting, editing, all that jazz. But since you made it all the way to the end of the video, and I assume enjoyed it, it's all worth it. So, with that said, live easy, and until next time.